I want to welcome to the program now a very, very favourite person on this channel and a good friend of mine, and that is the host of Credlin, Peta Credlin. Peter, thanks for coming into the office early and getting on the telly early before your show at 6 o'clock tonight. But I had to have you on because you had your first column in The Australian today. It was a cracking column. Congratulations on having a regular column in that most august journal that I'm privileged to write for. But what a cracking column. Looking at this national cabinet, tell us, it was a good idea, do you think, at the start, but it's just gone off the rails for Scott Morrison?
Look, I can see why he got involved and created this beast at the start. He rebranded basically the old COAG because other than shutting the borders and handling the income support to Australians, that's what the Commonwealth has done in the pandemic, two absolutely critical decisions. Basically everything else in terms of service delivery, the health aspects, the police force, the Crimes Act, the health bureaucracy, all really are state-run entities. So the Prime Minister could have found himself basically out of the game in terms of the public's perception of this pandemic and its handling, and accused him, his critics could have accused him of abrogating responsibility by creating a national cabinet. He put himself right at the centre of all of that decision-making. And when he was signing cheques, they're all pretty happy, right? All pretty happy. But what it did, I think, yes, it was a marketing ploy last year, but what it's done is it's disabled his ability to appropriately criticise the states when they're not doing enough. He runs cover last year, in my view, for Daniel Andrews. Careful not to criticise. He wants to keep up the support around the cabinet table, this national cabinet table. Let's just stop using the term, actually, because it's not national. They all do whatever they like when they get home. And it's not a cabinet, because the cabinet's got to have solidarity. I mean, look at that breakout on AstraZeneca, the extraordinary behaviour of Anastasia Palaszczuk. That's my criticism. And I think the Prime Minister now, he's going to wear the pain for all of this vaccine rollout. Whatever he does from here on in, Chris, you and I know the buck stops with the Prime Minister. That's the way it goes now in Australia. So he's better to, jump in there, grab the bull by the horns, take the whole show over if he has to, because it's not going according to Hoyle at the moment in any way, shape or form. And I think people are getting angrier by the day.
Look, I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's an important piece because I think the Prime Minister needs to read it. I certainly supported the National Cabinet at the time. It seemed like a great way to bring the country together in a crisis. But you and I, as former political advisors, have both sat in cabinets and dealt with them as advisors and know how it works. The important thing is, as you point out in the column, is that everybody is bound by that cabinet decision and they go out and argue one case. In this so-called national cabinet, none of that holds. They go back to their states and argue different cases. And in order to try and keep everybody on the same page, Scott Morrison has refrained from criticising them. I think what's happened here is he's actually been sucked down their elimination strategy path rather than being able to criticise them for doing it.
You're absolutely spot on. He has been brought down to their level, Gladys Berejiklian to one side. It's reduced the authority and the standing of the Prime Minister, I think, the longer he has sat around with the second 11.
Yeah, so what does he do, Peter? Does he scrap the National Cabinet, or does he have to actually really shake it up at the next meeting, demand a national strategy, map out a program like Singapore has done with some markers and some definite steps to a COVID normal, and demand that the states follow that national strategy?
Look, I think there has to be a national plan, and it's got to be his way or the highway. He can't expect, with how fractious it has become, and hold back waiting for them all to get absolute agreement. He has to lay it all out. I mean, he is purchasing, with federal taxpayer money, of course, all of the vaccines. So they've got to dance to his tune, and I think he's got to use his financial might better than he has to date. I don't think he got enough of a price out of the JobKeeper support. I mean, the lockdowns and all the other things that kept going, I think he should have turned the screws on them. Let's hope he does in relation to the vaccines. He's clearly got to get the most vulnerable vaccinated. There's still quite a sizable cohort out there. If you have to give them choice to get them vaccinated, doesn't matter. Get them vaccinated, give them whatever they want to get the jab in their arm, 70, 80, 90, they will die if they get a bad bout of COVID. Young people won't, of course. Clean up the mixed messaging about the vaccine types. It's been appalling. And I've never seen a government shy to spend money on a decent communications campaign. These guys have, though. I mean, what's been put out has been pretty parlous, and when it has hit the screens, I don't think it's been particularly effective. That's got to change. Think about big business. I know it's Sky News. Sky News provides our flu vaccinations. Big business should be saying to their employees, we'll offer it and run it out that way. Put more vaccine into the GP network and the pharmacies now, not in November, because that's how we get our flu jabs out. Stop leaving the vaccinations to be run by the states and push them all, Chris. Last point, push them all on. This comment from Daniel Andrews today that he wants to turn off people returning home to Australia by 80%. That is not tenable. The rest of the world is opening up. We can't keep shutting down and we can't keep locking down. I think the Prime Minister must stare them down.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing we should do would be turning our back on people coming back into this country, our own especially. Peter, it was a cracking column. It's great to have you in The Australian every Thursday. And even though I write for The Australian, I'm going to stay there. I'm not resigning. I'm staying at the Oz, Peter. Like some others. Great stuff. Peta Credlin, she'll be back
We have
at
quite
6.
literally turned a page on that one. We've turned a page on her. It's all good, Chris. Great to be with you. Great to be on your show too. Thank you.
Indeed. Thanks very much.